House Democrats are preparing for a historic vote to formally impeach President Trump in just 2 days. The House Judiciary Committee released a 658-page report on the impeachment overnight that lays out the case from both Democrats and Republicans. And a new CBS News poll finds 42% of Americans think that if President Trump is impeached, he should be convicted and removed from office. But an equal amount say the Senate should not convict him or not hold a trial at all. 16% say it's too soon to say. Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill for us. Nancy, good morning. What is next?
What's next is the House Rules Committee will hold a hearing tomorrow night to lay out all the procedures for the full House vote on Wednesday. Some Democrats still haven't said how they plan to vote. Hawaii's Tulsi Gabbard is one of them. But Democratic leaders say they are confident and they're already planning ahead for the Senate trial that's to come.
I think this whole thing is a crock.
Senate Republicans ready to defend the president are signaling they prefer a speedy trial.
All right, guys, welcome back. John here. So this is happening right now. Speculation is surging that Trump might resign, prompting the White House to repeatedly deny it day after day. The fact that officials keep having to push back against the chatter shows just how loud and widespread the rumors have become, even among serious political observers. Let me tell you what is actually going on, because this is absolutely huge for understanding where we are politically as a country. The resignation talk is not some random internet conspiracy drummed up by people in their basements. Major political analysts are discussing this. Legal experts are analyzing it. Commentators are laying out scenarios. And you have to understand something important here. This did not just start yesterday. This goes back way further than that. This is rooted in history. We are talking about a moment from years ago, and now it is resurfacing.
With no new witnesses.
I am ready to vote on the underlying articles.
But Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a letter to Majority Leader Mitch McConnell last night, detailing the witnesses and timeline Senate Democrats want to see. He proposes that Chief Justice John Roberts, who will preside over the trial, issue subpoenas to 4 administration officials, including acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney and former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who were both asked to testify in the House impeachment inquiry but did not appear. In a statement, McConnell's office responded that the majority leader has made it clear that he plans to meet with Leader Schumer to discuss the contours of a trial soon.
I'm going to coordinate with the president's lawyers.
McConnell and the White House are coordinating on strategy.
We wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't working hand in hand with the Senate to clear the president of this charade, this sham.
On Sunday, Democrats accused McConnell of violating his duty to serve as an impartial juror.
It is coming back, and it is getting louder than ever. The momentum behind these discussions is building. The frequency is increasing. More people are joining the conversation, and that is what makes this newsworthy. Here is the absolute truth, though, and I want to be crystal clear on this. Nobody at a major news organization is reporting that Trump has secretly agreed to resign. That is not what this is. That is not what we are talking about here. What we are actually looking at is a massive spike in serious speculation about whether he might eventually do it. Can you believe this? It is this weird mix of legal pressure combining with war criticism, combining with health concerns, combining with pure political chaos, all swirling together into this storm.
Here you have the majority leader of the Senate, in effect the foreman of the jury, saying he's going to work hand in glove with the defense attorney. That's a violation of the oath that they're about to take, and it's a complete subversion of the constitutional scheme.
Republicans argued it's the House process that was unfair.
I think this is the beginning of the end for this show trial that we've seen in the House.
Conservative groups see impeachment as a winning issue for them. They're targeting House Democrats in 31 congressional districts that President Trump won in 2016, including New Jersey's Jeff Van Drew, a conservative Democrat facing a tough re-election, who's expected to switch parties after being wooed personally by President Trump. On Sunday, 5 of Van Drew's staffers abruptly resigned. In a letter, they wrote that his switch to the GOP, quote, does not align with the values
we brought to this job.
Smart people are looking at all of this and saying, yeah, this could happen. This is possible. This is within the realm of what could actually occur. Back in the moment, right after the Capitol attack, all hell broke loose with resignation demands. I mean, everybody was calling for it. The Wall Street Journal came out and said Trump's best path was to resign. Just go away quietly. That was their editorial position. Editorial boards across the entire country were basically saying, step down, do it now. Even Republican senators were saying it publicly. The pressure was genuinely intense and it came from everywhere. And here is where this gets crazy. The pressure was so intense that random tech glitches somehow triggered a nationwide panic. Seriously, a State Department biography page glitched just for like an hour. That is all it was.
And raise your right hand. I will begin by swearing you in.
After months of investigation,
The president wanted these two investigations, is that right?
Correct.
And that everybody knew it?
Correct.
testimony and acrimony.
None of your fact witnesses were able to establish any evidence of bribery, treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors.
It all comes down to this: a vote in the House of Representatives on whether to impeach Donald Trump.
What's included are two very specific issues. One is abusing power by holding up duly authorized foreign aid to an ally of the United States. And the second one is basically contempt of Congress.
It started with a phone call between America's leader and Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelensky.
That was a perfect call.
Perfect to him, impeachable to Democrats. They claim America's leader withheld aid to get a foreign power to investigate Joe Biden.
And it showed Trump's term had ended. That is literally all it took. One website malfunction. What happened next was absolutely insane. Searches for whether Trump resigned spiked by more than 4,000% in just 24 hours. Thousands and thousands of people flooded social media. The hashtag calling for Trump to resign was trending everywhere. It was absolutely unhinged. The entire country was basically one website error away from accepting that resignation was possible. Officials eventually said it was probably sabotage or system error. But yeah, that is how close people were to just accepting this as reality. Fast forward to today, and we are seeing that same energy building again. But except now, it is not just editorial boards and senators calling for resignation. It is political strategists publishing detailed essays about it.
For his own political gain. They've also charged him with obstructing Congress, blocking witnesses, and refusing to hand over documents.
How bad do you think it is what Donald Trump is accused of?
This is the worst impeachment that we have seen in American history. All the previous impeachments were just about things that happened inside the United States. This is the first one where the president is using their very broad powers in foreign policy for their own personal political benefit.
This inquiry has thrust career diplomats reluctantly into the spotlight.
Our Ukraine policy has been thrown into disarray. And shady interests the world over have learned how little it takes to remove an American ambassador who does not give them what they want.
But not a single Republican has said what the president did is impeachable.
We saw the call transcript, and there's no conditionality. There was never awareness on the part of the Ukraine that there was a delay in aid.
It is viral videos floating around online. It is commentators on cable news talking seriously about what a resignation deal would actually look like. And look, I need to be straight with you here. Nobody verified, nobody credible with real evidence has said Trump actually agreed to resign. The White House keeps saying he is finishing his term. They say it over and over. But that is not really the point anymore. The point is that the conversation is completely mainstream now. It is not fringe. It is not crazy conspiracy talk. Serious people with credentials are asking serious questions about this. That matters. That tells you something really important about the current moment. Why though? Why is this suddenly everywhere? What changed? What is different from before?
And the Ukraine got the aid without opening the investigation that seems to be so troubling to Democrats.
It doesn't matter if the deal was consummated for it to be a problem. The problem is that the president tried. He tried to use his powers. He tried to withhold the aid to put this pressure on Zelensky.
We've been here before.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've done.
The Watergate Hotel embraces the legacy of Richard Nixon's impeachment, but this inquiry is different.
We've known really all the facts about the president's actions from the beginning. And so it really is a question of how threatening to democracy and to constitutional order is the president's behavior. And that makes it different.
Well, a bunch of stuff, actually. For one, Trump is facing absolutely massive legal pressure. Civil fraud losses stacking up, criminal cases pending, congressional probes that just will not quit no matter what. There is the Iran war, which is getting absolutely hammered by criticism from all sides. People are genuinely angry about it. The public is turning against it. Then there is all this health stuff that keeps coming up. Bruising, fatigue, concerns about cognition. None of it is totally clear-cut, but people notice it. People worry about it, and politicians are already doing the math in their heads about whether he can actually survive a full 4 more years of this. Add all those things together, and suddenly a resignation scenario does not seem totally insane anymore. It seems possible. It seems survivable, maybe even strategic from a certain angle. That is what is driving this conversation right now.
So let us actually get into the details here, because this is where things get really interesting. Back in the moment when Trump was facing impeachment after the Capitol events, the resignation pressure was genuinely intense. Like, this was not just random media chatter or Twitter noise. We are talking about actual institutional pressure. Major Republican figures were publicly telling him to go. They were not hiding it. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board spelled it out in very clear language. Resign, take responsibility, and get it over with. They said it would be best for everyone if he goes away quietly. Can you imagine that? The Journal basically was like, "Sir, please just leave office now." That is how serious things had gotten. PBS reported at that exact time that Trump was defiant amid calls to resign. They said he was entering the last days of his presidency, facing a second impeachment, and growing calls for his resignation, but he refused. He just did not go. He stayed. He fought it. He ignored the pressure. But here is where this gets crucial for understanding what is happening today. And this is the thing that most people actually miss when they analyze this story. Resignation talk did not actually die after that moment. It did not disappear. It just went dormant. It was sitting there underneath the surface, waiting. Because everyone in politics understood one fundamental thing. They all knew that if Trump ever faced enough pressure again, whether legal or political or health-related, resignation would become an option that people seriously discuss. It would come back. It would resurface. And guess what? That moment is kind of here now. We are watching it happen in real time. The pressure has built up, the chatter has resumed, and people are asking the same questions they asked back then. Let me tell you about a moment that made people's ears perk up immediately. A key official went on national television and said something that really caught people's attention. She said Trump will probably leave after his second term. Those are her exact words, probably. She called the third term a heavy lift constitutionally. She basically acknowledged right there on national television that this would not go on forever. Even she is already talking about the end game. Even his own administration is discussing eventual exit scenarios. But that was not the thing that really cranked up the heat recently. That was not what supercharged this conversation. The thing that did that was a detailed political essay published recently. And this essay straight up predicted that Donald Trump will resign the presidency before his term officially ends. And this author was not some crazy person writing from a basement. They mapped it all out. They explained the reasoning step by step. They walk through every scenario methodically. According to this analysis, Trump does not get removed by impeachment. He does not lose an election. That is not how this plays out. Instead, there is a deal, a negotiated exit, a transaction. The resignation does not happen on a whim or on impulse, but with a deal attached to it. A specific upcoming moment becomes super important to watch. That is when some key arrangement expires. That opens the door. That is when the math could shift dramatically. The pardon part is absolutely the key to understanding all of this, because Trump's legal situation right now is, let us just say, it is not great. It is not good at all. He is facing mountains of legal exposure. Civil suits coming at him from multiple directions, criminal investigations that are still ongoing, congressional probes that are aggressive and persistent. Mountains of legal problems ensure he can use presidential powers, and that gives him some protection. All presidents have that power, but eventually a presidency ends. It always ends. 4 years pass, then what? When his term is over, then he is exposed. He is vulnerable. The lawsuits do not stop just because he is no longer president. If anything, they get worse. They intensify. Prosecutors have more freedom. The timeline opens up. Everything is more aggressive once he leaves office. So imagine you are sitting in Trump's position right now. You've got legal bills that never stop coming. You've got prosecutors who never quit. You have got cases that could potentially put you in serious legal jeopardy or at least bankrupt you with legal costs that just keep piling up. Then someone sits down with you and says, hey, what if there is a way out? What if you step down? Someone else takes over and pardons you and you just disappear. You just go live your life. You just go away. That is tempting. You have to understand how tempting that would be for anyone in that position. Facing that level of exposure, that scenario becomes very attractive very quickly. It solves the problem, it makes it go away, it provides an exit ramp, and then layer on top of all that the Iran war situation. This is blowing up politically right now. People are genuinely angry about it. It is destabilizing the country. It is costing money. It is causing casualties. It is unpopular. Trump is taking constant heat for it. He is defending it over and over. Then add in health concerns. This is serious. There is bruising. There is fatigue. There is talk from people about cognitive decline. I am not saying any of this proves anything definitive about anything, but people notice it, politicians notice it, people worry about it, and politicians start doing the math in their heads about whether a president can actually survive a full 4 years of this intensity. All of those things together, they create a scenario where resignation does not seem totally insane anymore. It seems possible. It seems survivable. It maybe even seems strategic if you are looking at it from a certain angle. Now, here's where the historical parallel comes in and why so many people are talking about Nixon right now. See, in the past, a president was facing impeachment. The evidence against him was mounting. His situation was becoming completely untenable. There was no way forward. So he negotiated an exit with his successor. The successor became president. The president resigned, and then within hours, boom, a blanket pardon was issued, a full and unconditional pardon for any and all offenses. That is the exact language people are quoting right now when they talk about this scenario. That is the model that everyone is referencing. That is the template. Could that happen again? Legally? Yes. Constitutionally? Yes. Is it likely? That is literally what people are arguing about right now. That is the whole conversation. And here is the thing that makes people very nervous about this scenario. If something like that actually went down, if Trump negotiated a resignation in exchange for a pardon from his successor, it would absolutely shatter public trust in democracy. People would lose their minds. Democrats would say it is total corruption. Republicans would defend it as strategic. The country would be divided, angry, questioning everything about how the government works. That is why the White House keeps denying it. That is why they are out there saying, no, he is staying. He is doing his full term. Because if they acknowledged that conversations like this are even happening, if they admitted that this is being discussed, it would spiral into chaos immediately. The markets would react. Congress would freak out. International allies would panic. The uncertainty would be insane. There is too much instability to even hint that this is possible. But the fact that they have to deny it so much, that actually tells you something too. It tells you the pressure is real. Let me break this down into what actually matters. What is a real story here? Why should you care about this? What should you be paying attention to? And what happens next? Because that is what people want to know. First, and this is the foundation of literally everything, Trump is not going to resign because of pressure from cable news or because angry people are tweeting at him. That is not how this works. That is naive thinking. But he might resign if it solves a real problem. And right now, he is facing an absolutely enormous stack of problems. Legal exposure is absolutely massive. He is facing multiple criminal investigations happening right now. He has civil fraud losses stacking up already. Congressional probes will not quit. They are aggressive. And here is the real kicker. Even as president, he cannot make all of this go away forever. Pardons have limits. They have legal boundaries. Congressional investigations do not stop just because you are president. They keep going. And the moment his term ends, the second that happens, he is potentially vulnerable in ways he has not been vulnerable before. Everyone knows this. Trump knows this. His lawyers definitely know this. They are thinking about this constantly. So the calculation becomes basically this. Do I want to spend the next few years fighting legal battles and worrying constantly about what happens when I leave office and my immunity goes away? Or do I negotiate a deal right now that gives me permanent immunity from prosecution? That is the question running through people's heads. And it is not an unreasonable question for someone in his position to ask. It is not crazy. It is not stupid. It is actually pretty logical if you think about it from a pure self-interest standpoint. That is why this conversation exists. That is why smart people are discussing this scenario seriously. Second, the political situation is getting chaotic, and that creates opportunities for deals. The Iran war is unpopular, really unpopular. People are actively angry about it. Protests are happening. It is costing enormous amounts of money. It is causing casualties, and Trump is taking all the heat for it. He is defending it over and over. It is politically exhausting. It is draining. A president who is constantly defending an unpopular war is a president who has lost leverage. He loses support. His power erodes. That is bad for him. It weakens his position. Add in health concerns that people keep bringing up in serious context, and the calculation changes completely because people start asking, can he actually do more years of this? Can he sustain this? Is this sustainable? And if the answer is maybe not, then the exit strategy becomes more appealing. It starts to look smart. It starts to look like a strategic move rather than a failure. Third, a resignation and pardon deal is theoretically possible because it has actually happened before in American history. It was done before. A successor took over as president, and the previous president walked away with a blanket pardon. Legally, it is possible. Constitutionally, it is allowed. So, when people talk about this scenario today, they are not making it up out of thin air. They are following a playbook that already exists. Everyone knows this playbook. It is in the history books. So, the conversation has some real basis. But here is the difference, and this is really important. Back then, the whole country was watching. It was transparent. Congress was involved. There were investigations. There was a process. It was somewhat out in the open. If this happened today, it would be negotiated behind closed doors. It would be mysterious. People will wonder what the deal was. It would fuel conspiracy theories for decades. It would damage trust in government even more than it is already damaged. That is why it is so controversial when people bring this up. Section 3. Fourth, and this is the big one, the mere fact that this conversation is completely mainstream right now tells you something really important about the instability of the current political moment. The fact that serious political analysts are publishing essays predicting Trump will resign before his term ends, that is news. The fact that legal experts are debating whether it is constitutional to have a resignation for pardon deal, that is significant. The fact that commentators on cable news are openly discussing pardon scenarios in serious terms, that means something. All of that is very unusual. All of that is noteworthy. In a normal presidency, we do not do this. We do not sit around and wonder if the president might resign next year. That is not standard operating procedure. That is not normal at all. The fact that it is happening now, that it is a mainstream conversation, means something. It means the pressure is real. It means people genuinely believe the president might exit early. It means they are taking it seriously, and that is worth paying attention to. Now, here is where we actually stand right now. in real time. The White House insists Trump is staying. He is finishing his term. No secret deals, no resignation plans, nothing is happening. Okay, fine. Maybe they are right. Maybe it is all just speculation and noise and internet chatter. Maybe none of this turns into anything. That is possible. But what if they are wrong? What if the pressure keeps building instead of going away? What if the Iran war gets worse instead of better? What if new legal developments make Trump's situation even more precarious than it already is? What if health issues become more prominent? What if everything accelerates? Then what happens? Then the resignation conversation stops being purely theoretical and becomes actually practical. Then people start actually negotiating. Then Trump's lawyers sit down with Republican leaders in private rooms and start asking concrete questions. How would this even work? What would the pardon language need to say? What protections would Trump need? Who needs to approve this? What is the timeline? All of these practical questions start getting asked and answered. And that is when it gets real. Because here is what most people do not understand about how these things work. Resignation does not need to be sudden. It does not need to be shocking or dramatic. It can be planned months in advance. It can be negotiated behind closed doors. It can be done quietly, with all the right people knowing about it in advance. Trump announces he is stepping down for personal reasons or health reasons or family reasons. Some explanation that saves face. His successor is suddenly president. Within hours, maybe even minutes, a pardon is issued, done, over, everyone moves on. Life continues. The press moves to the next story. From a political strategy standpoint, that is actually pretty genius. It solves Trump's legal problem completely. It gives Republicans a new president to rally behind. It does not look like a loss. It looks like a planned transition, a handoff. It is clean, it is controlled, it is managed. Is it ethical? No. Is it a betrayal of democratic norms and the rule of law? Probably yes. But is it legal? Yeah, it actually is. That is the thing that makes this possible. It is not illegal. It is just deeply problematic from a democracy standpoint. That is why this story matters. That is why people are paying serious attention, because we are living in a moment where the unthinkable is suddenly thinkable. Where scenarios that would have been absolutely crazy years ago are now being treated as serious policy discussions by credible people. So what happens next? Well, we keep watching. We monitor if the legal pressure increases or stays the same. We pay close attention to how the Iran war develops and whether it gets more or less popular. We watch health updates. We stay alert for any signs that this resignation talk is moving from pure speculation to actual negotiation. Because when it does, when the chatter stops being theoretical and starts being real, when actual backroom deals start getting discussed, when lawyers and politicians start having serious conversations about terms and conditions, that is when this story explodes. That is when everything changes. That is the moment the whole game shifts. Until then, the White House can keep denying it. The president can keep saying he is staying for his full term. But the conversation is out there now. The possibility is real. It is on the table. It is being discussed. And the more chaos that builds, the more crisis develops, the more likely this scenario becomes. That is where we are politically right now. That is the current moment. That is why this story is not going away anytime soon. It is going to stay in the news. It is going to keep building. Watch this space, because this one is just getting started. The combination of legal pressure, political chaos, health concerns, and historical precedent is creating a perfect storm that could lead to something truly unprecedented in American politics. We are watching history unfold in real time, and nobody really knows how it ends. But one thing is certain: the speculation is real, it is serious, and it is not going anywhere. The question is whether it will ever become reality.